Today we're making the easiest pizza. Hi, welcome to Black Cat Kitchen. I'm Daniela. I hope you're doing well. Today we're making the easiest pizza in the world. Here are the ingredients you'll need for this recipe. Feel free to pause. I'll list the ingredients in the description below. Let's start with our dough. To your bowl, add your yeast and your warm water. Give that a little stir and just let that yeast break down a little bit. Just like in our no knead bread video, we're going to add our salt at the end. So flour next, and then our oil, and then our salt. We're gonna mix that all together, and I'm just gonna use my hands for this. This recipe makes two 12-inch pizzas. One of those pizzas we're going to be making today with a stuffed crust. You can double, even triple this recipe because it freezes really nicely, and you can always have some leftover pizza bases in your freezer. You can see it's quite a shaggy dough at this point. We do have to give this one a knead, unlike our no knead bread recipe. Check out the video for that in my playlist. We're going to do the slap and fold method. It's my favorite method of kneading, and I think it's the easiest. Get your kids involved if you've got some kids at home. You just want to keep picking up your dough from the sides like this, lifting it up, turning it, and then flipping it back down again. You can already see that dough is tightening up, and you want no flour on the counter at this point. You really want that dough to stick so that it creates some tension. Just keep doing this for 5 to 8 minutes until you have a nice, soft, and supple looking dough. If your dough is still a bit sticky while you're working with it, put a little bit of that leftover oil on your hands or even some water, and that will help stop the sticking while you're kneading it. Slap that dough. So this is what your dough should look like. Not a completely smooth ball. You want a few rugged edges, but mostly smooth overall. So we're going to lightly just grease our bowl, just with some olive oil, so that the dough doesn't stick and it allows it to rise up nicely. Actually, it helps here if you've got some olive oil on your hands. And then we're going to take the dough and just pop it into our bowl. We're going to cover up our dough and let it rest for 90 minutes until it's very puffy. If you're making this dough ahead of time, let it rest for 45 minutes until it's slightly puffed up, and then put it in the fridge, and you can use it in any time in the next 24 hours. While the dough is proving, let's get started on our sauce. Let's get our saucepan turned on, medium-high heat, and get our oil in the pan. We're going to add some garlic to this. I don't feel the need to chop this garlic at this point. I just like to take the skins off and pop it in the pan so that the flavors permeate the oil. Once you see those bubbles start to form around your garlic and you hear that sizzling coming up, that's when you want to add your tomato. We're going to really cook this sauce down because I like a nice thick tomato sauce on my pizza. That way it doesn't make your pizza crust soggy. You can use whatever sauce you like for this. I prefer tomato, but the editor loves barbecue sauce. I threw one together earlier for him with just some ingredients that I had around the house, but you can certainly use a store-bought barbecue sauce, or if you're in a pinch and you don't have the things together to make a barbecue sauce, a mix of ketchup and brown sauce, equal parts is really great. We're going to save the seasoning to the end, and we're going to turn down the heat to about medium-low so that it can really cook down slowly. I've taken a low moisture mozzarella and I've popped it in the freezer for about 20 minutes. It makes it a little bit easier to grate. You can use a more moist mozzarella, but I find that it can give your pizza a bit of a sogginess, so make sure you use it in moderation, and I definitely would use this for your typical style pizza. You don't want a soggy bottom on your pizza. That sauce is looking really thick and glossy now. That olive oil really does work its magic in there. We're going to season it at this point and turn it off so it can cool before we put it on the pizza. So I'm just going to use a little bit of salt. And I'm going to give that a stir, and we'll have a taste of it to see if it needs anything else. It's a little bit bitter, and I'm just going to put a tiny pinch of granulated sugar just to elevate the sweetness of the tomato. That's all it needs. Let's get started on our toppings. I'm going to prepare the cheese for the stuffed crust. My secret for the best stuffed crust is cheese string. Now, the editor hates cheese string.
It's true.
It's better to use cheese string for your stuffed crust because it really does hold its shape and it doesn't melt out of the crust like a traditional mozzarella would. I like to chop them into little pieces so that they fit in the crust. Now we'll start preparing our toppings. You can use whatever toppings you like, but these are some of our favorites. I'm slicing some black olives, some pineapple cut into small pieces, some button mushrooms, I prefer cremini style, and prosciutto just torn up into pieces. Wow, look at that rise. Beautiful. Nice and fluffy. We're going to split it into 2 balls of dough now to create our pizzas. So we'll just lightly flour our work surface. We'll tip our dough out. You're gonna lose a lot of that air, don't worry. We do need to let it rest again in the pan so it gets nice and fluffy. I'm gonna split this in half so that we've got 2 pizzas. I'll set one aside and I'll start on the other. So I just like to start it in a bit of a circle and just work it around. And actually you can let it fall over the back of your knuckles and just spread it apart. The dough feels so nice. That olive oil gives it a real nice stretchiness. Now, if you've just taken this out of the fridge and you've let it sit there overnight or for a minimum of 4 hours, you're going to want to let this next step go a little bit longer. So the proof will take a little bit longer if your dough is cold. But actually, that looks like a really nice shape. And we'll get that into our pre-greased pan. But just press it so that your edges sort of spread out. And actually, mine is filling it really nicely. I don't want to go much thinner than that, but you can spread it right to the edges if you'd like. That thickness of dough is perfect for me. So let's get started on the other one, and this is going to be our stuffed crust. So with the stuffed crust, I've stretched it a little bit further and a little bit thinner, and I'm actually going to do the second proof with that cheese already in the crust. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to very carefully move this over to my tray, but we're going to leave that little bit hanging over the edge because that bit is actually going to tuck over and form our crust. We're going to grab our bits of cheese, and we're just going to tuck them in. And you want to make sure you don't get any flour on this part of your dough. Otherwise, your dough won't stick to itself and your cheese will run out. Now I'm just going to go around those edges and make sure they're really nicely sealed down. And if you're a fan of a seasoned crust, you can certainly season it at this point. We're just going to cover these back up for about another hour until they've just gotten a little bit more puffy. While those are proving for the second time, preheat your oven to 230 degrees centigrade or 450 degrees Fahrenheit. Let's have a look at the dough. Oh, that looks so good. You know you're gonna get some nice bubbly bits in here when you've got it in the oven. We're going to get these in the oven for 10 minutes and then we'll take them out and top them. Because we're doing 2 pizzas, we'll want one on the lowest rack and one in the middle, and at 5 minutes, we'll swap them over. Once the pizzas come out of the oven at this stage after about 10 minutes, you can let them cool and wrap them up and put them in the fridge for up to 2 days. They also freeze really nicely for up to 3 months if you wanted to make a couple in advance. This bit of brownness is exactly what you're looking for to know that your crusts are the perfect doneness. Let's get these topped and back in the oven. This is a great way to have a pizza party, have all of your toppings set out, have your crusts pre-baked and ready to go into the oven with all of the toppings on them.
Although pizza parties are a thing of the past at the moment. Sad face.
Hopefully one day soon.
Yeah, pizza party for 2, or maybe up to 6 depending on restrictions.
As long as they're in your household. So this is the barbecue sauce. Another good reason to par-bake, especially when you're using a runny sauce like this, is that you really don't want that soggy pizza.
Dear.
I like to start with a small layer of mozzarella and then put the rest of my toppings on. I've sliced my mushrooms up and I've bought the smallest little cremini mushrooms I could get because they cook really nicely in the oven. And I put the pineapple on last because I don't want any pineapple juices going onto my pizza because I think it's gross. Let me know in the comments if you like pineapple on your pizza or if you agree with me and think pineapple shouldn't be on pizza. So we're gonna put these in the oven for another 10-15 minutes until that cheese gets bubbly and starts browning on top. Yum. We're gonna let these rest for about 5 minutes just so all of those toppings settle in, and then we'll get them cut up and we'll have a slice. That looks so good. But let's dig in on a bite of mine. You can see that crust on the bottom is nice and crispy. I've been waiting for this all day. That tomato sauce is so bright. The crust is chewy and fragrant and has a beautiful flavor. The olive oil on the bottom really gives it a really gorgeous crunch. The toppings are up to you, but these are my favorite. And that cheese is just gorgeous and melted and getting that little bit brown on top. You'll never want to take away pizza again. Thanks for watching Black Cat Kitchen. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment below. And make sure to check out our other videos. See you soon.